You have your curriculum and you don't want to change. If you're listening to this episode as it goes live, we are now at the beginning of December. So we're closer to the middle of the homeschool year. So I totally get that. But you could be listening to this episode at any time, and maybe there are some other reasons. Some of the top reasons why people don't want to change is because of how far you are in the homeschool year, or because of your budget. You might say, I don't have any money left to purchase some new type of curriculum. Or it might be time. You might say, you know what? I don't want to spend any more time looking for curriculum. I have so many other things that I need to do right now, and searching for a new, say, math curriculum or history curriculum is just, I don't have the margin for that. Or maybe you just don't have a desire to go and do any more research. I get it. It can be fun at some times of the year, and other times you're like, I'm burned out from that. I just want to use what I have and just get it. I don't want to say just get it done, but I want to make this work well for us. And so the last possible reason why is just determination to make it work. Say, we are going to make this work. And all of those are valid reasons, no matter where you are in the homeschool year. But today I want to share with you some simple tips, also maybe some hacks in order to make what you have work for you, work for each of your children, work for your family as a unit. So let's get into it now. Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where we talk anything and everything homeschool and all that encompasses the homeschool lifestyle. I'm your host, Leigh Nguyen. I'm a mom who never intended to homeschool, and suddenly I am here, 14 years later, with 2 homeschool graduates and 1 more to go. No matter where you are in your homeschool journey, Little by Little Homeschool seeks to empower and encourage you to carry out this amazing calling of home educating and discipling your children. It's not always easy, but I'm here to walk alongside you because I promise that these years are worth all of your effort. Grab that load of laundry that needs folded, settle in at a kitchen sink to wash those dishes, or tie up those walking sneakers, and let's get into today's topic. There could be multiple reasons why your homeschool curriculum is not working. Some of the most common ones, the ones that I hear about often and the ones that I have personally experienced, is that the curriculum is maybe too advanced for your child. Or maybe on the other end of the spectrum, it might not be challenging enough for them. Maybe you're finding that the curriculum is just plain old boring. Or possibly the one that I would always run into the most often would be that the curriculum is just complicated. It comes with this book and this book and this guide, and you got to watch this video and this kind of stuff. And that last one right there is something that I've just worked through with my senior, and it was a English curriculum. We had never used it before. Let's try this out. And it just looked overwhelming at first. And still, I'm kind of like, it seems a little bit fragmented, and I was a little frustrated. But I think we've kind of fallen into a rhythm finally. So I'm going to give you some ideas. Maybe grab a pen and paper and write these down, or just store them in the back of your mind, because I think that you're going to hear 1 or 2 and you're going to say, oh yeah, that's the gem right there that I was looking for, and that's what I need to do. But after listening to this, which is great, you're listening to it, then you need to take some action and go ahead and start making the changes, because the goal is for the homeschool to work for your family. Now, the curriculum is not the end all be all. And that's my first tip here, is that the curriculum is a guide and it's created by somebody else. Now, some of these curriculums are, I guess it kind of depends upon possibly which homeschool style it is. A lot of the ones that maybe are a little bit more reminiscent of school with textbooks, and they might just be following a certain scope and sequence and might be trying to modeling a little bit after the school. Some of them are going to be maybe a little bit more Charlotte Mason. And so it can really kind of run the gamut as far as the curriculum and how strict it is and how it is set up. But either way, it is created by someone else who does not know you and does not know your individual child. They are appealing to a broader audience. And so when you even look at curriculum and you say, okay, I have a child that would technically be in 2nd grade, whether you give them grades or not. Some of us live in states where we have to give them grades as per our paperwork and our homeschool regulations, but we don't necessarily have to make sure that everything is on that 2nd grade level. And so that's a really important thing to remember, that if, let's just for example, use math. Your child is just not quite to what that certain curriculum says is second grade, that's okay. They can do the level that's right below that. That does not mean that they are failing. You are not failing. There's nothing wrong with them. Mastery is what we are looking for, not necessarily just checking off the check boxes and filling in the worksheets. So the curriculum is created by somebody else who does not know you personally, and it is just a guide. You get to make it your own. And you really have to. You have to make it your own in order for homeschooling to be something that you are really enjoying and that you're thriving in and that your family is growing in and that your children can gain mastery in the various subjects. The second tip I want to mention is that you have to remember that you don't have to finish it all. You don't have to finish all of your math, all of your history, all of your science, all of your language. Like all of that curriculum does not need to be finished in one homeschool year. You could take your time going through it, and then you can continue the next homeschool year if you did not finish it. Now, some kids might kind of whiz through something. There are some homeschool children that really enjoy doing workbooks and checking off the pages, and say like math, they're just getting through it. They're flying through it. It's not maybe a super intense type of program, and they fly through multiple workbooks, and they might get to the end of a homeschool year. You might say, you know, we're going to put this on the shelf right now, and we are going to finish it up at the beginning of the next homeschool year. That is absolutely appropriate to do. There are some of those kids out there who will say, no, I want to finish it, and they'll want to do it over their summer break. And you can let them do that too. There's nothing wrong with that. So remember that you don't have to finish it all. I live in a state with pretty strict homeschool regulations, and they don't even require us to finish every single curriculum all the way through. Technically, it says in the homeschool regulations, now I'm not a lawyer, do not take my word for it. Always go back and look at your own homeschool regulations, even if we live in the same state, but it says 80% of it. Think about schools, they never finish the entire books either. And so if I'm not saying to use them as a plumb line, but I think sometimes that for me actually really helped me to relax a bit, because I was thinking like, oh, they're doing something so fantastic and so great and they're getting through everything. And I realized they weren't. So I was just putting undue pressure upon myself. Now, if you do get through it all, that's fine. But remember that you don't have to. Now, let's go into those different reasons that I gave in the beginning. I'm going to break down each one of those and give you some ideas under each of those categories. Let's say that you have a curriculum that is too advanced. What are you going to do? You're going to slow it down. We, for a while, I'm going to name a specific curriculum, and you can do this. It was great. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just going to give it as an example. If you've ever done Saxon math, then you know what I'm talking about. We began using Saxon math when it got to, I think, but I'm not quite sure if it's pre-algebra or at least by algebra 1, we started using Saxon math. And there was just a lot in it. So this would have been middle school time period, high school, maybe. I think middle school. I think all my kids kind of started pre-algebra and algebra in middle school. And so there was a lot. Now, they use a spiral method where they will continue to review previous concepts. And I love that. That really helped my kids to remember. You're constantly reviewing. And so I knew that it was really good for them to do all of the problems, but I didn't think that they needed to do all the problems every single day. So this would have been middle school and high school. And even for, like, if a child was good with math, it would take at least an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And if they were a little bit slower, it'd take even longer. But it'd start taking longer and longer because just their will to do it began to really go downhill. And so I began to say, okay, on day 1, we're going to do the lesson for it. And then you're going to do a couple of problems related to the new concept that was introduced to you. And I would look through. This took some work on my part, and this is going to take some work on your part for all of these different reasons. And let's get some skin in the game and do the work. And then I would say on the second day, let's do these certain problems. I think there's about 30 problems for each. Sometimes I would pick through and have them just do some and then move on to the next lesson the next day. But sometimes I would say, you know what? I think it's important for you to get through all 30 of these problems. So today I'm going to have you do problems 1 to 15. And then on day 3, it would be problems 16 to 30. And I would always work to make sure I would do the checking of their work that very same day, right, pretty soon after they were done. And then they would have a chance to be able to work on some corrections while it was still fresh in their mind. So that's an example of how you can slow it down if it's too advanced. You don't have to do a lesson and all the work. This could be for any of the subjects in one day. Maybe it's language arts and your child has to write a short essay, just maybe a paragraph, and there's an introduction to it and they have to brainstorm. And in your curriculum, it wants you to come up with the idea or to pick from a selection of ideas. It wants them to brainstorm, write out possibly maybe an outline, and then to write it and then to edit it and everything in one day. And you're saying to yourself, that's just too much for this child to do. Well, why don't you let them pick a topic and just do some brainstorming? Because what usually happens is in the back of their mind, that thought about that topic they picked will keep coming up in their mind while they have the rest of the day. Maybe as they're falling asleep, an idea might come to them, and the next day they might be able then to write the rough draft. It's okay to take their time. Mastery is what we are looking for, not just to get the writing done. Now let's go on to, say the curriculum is not challenging enough. You might say, you know what? This is what we're going to make it work. Maybe next year I'll pick something that's a bit more challenging. Maybe they have really advanced in it, or possibly sometimes we get into curriculum that we just are like, okay, the older sibling used this. This will be fine for them. And we realize, oh, okay, they're a bit more advanced, say in the math or the language arts than their older sibling was. Or maybe you're just like, I don't have the budget to get something new, but maybe next year we will, or I'll start looking for something for next year and we'll change it later on, but we have to just make this work. So if the curriculum is not challenging enough for them, then start to supplement it. Find maybe some, say it's math, maybe you find some games that are online for them to do, or maybe it's an extra workbook, or maybe it's just a way of kind of like adding something, let's say for math, it's adding maybe like mind benders and puzzles and things that doesn't even necessarily look like they're doing math, but you're just adding to it. Now, oftentimes if something is not challenging enough, the child might say, oh, this is cool. I'm glad that it's not challenging enough. This is so easy to do. Then you have to be a little bit creative because you might start to find some resistance from them. If you start adding more worksheets for them to do, they might say, this isn't fair. I have to do this lesson and all the problems in it, and then you're giving me more worksheets to do. You might need to find some type of games or something else to be able to supplement. But if it's not challenging enough, you might have a child that's really advanced and loves math or loves writing, and that you'll have to then add more to it. So say it's the writing and the language arts is it's just a little bit too simple for them. And so then you maybe challenge them. Maybe instead of waiting until a couple of years for them to write a research paper, start teaching them how to do that now. Because when kids want to do those things, like, don't hold them back. The third different reason why you maybe would want to change is just that the curriculum is boring. Well, then use it as a guide. Use it as an outline. Let's use, for an example, science. You might say, I thought this was going to be great, or I heard some really great things about this. And you start getting into it and you're like, it's kind of boring. So say you are learning about the cycle of trees, and it's basically just kind of reading through, and there might be some boring black and white pictures. Well, then find some documentaries, find some other videos, find some books at the library, find some things that are not boring, and you can use that curriculum just as an outline and then supplement. Again, if you don't have the budget for things, there's so many free options on the internet. So it's not even an excuse not to be able to add something to it if it's boring. And the fourth reason that's very common that I find people want to change their curriculum is because it's complicated. My best advice for this is to give it time. Slow down the process of trying to figure out the curriculum. For example, we love this curriculum, this history curriculum, but when I first started homeschooling, the very first history curriculum I picked was The Mystery of History. Now, I know there's a lot of stuff online, like I'm like OG kind of here, and it was like a really thick soft cover book, and there was just so much information in it. I think it came with like a CD-ROM, and you could do some type of art with it, and you could do maybe an experiment or build something, and there was other things maybe to watch. There was a timeline, and there was worksheets and tests and quizzes, and I remember being so overwhelmed that I put it aside for a little while and considered quitting. We did not quit. I've actually been through the Mystery of History 2 times since then. But I realized at that time that I just needed to slow down and just look at, let's just do, we'll say in air quotes, the bare minimal. And so we would read the lesson and then talk about it, maybe a little bit of narration. And I added in a timeline. I found like a timeline book. So they each had their own timeline book. and they would draw a picture, which they love to draw. So draw a picture, and then underneath we would write maybe a couple of sentences or a couple of words. And as they got to be older, they could write a little bit more. And so that was my way of just taking something that to me at that time seemed complicated. And I've had her on the podcast. She will even say, I'm just giving you lots of ideas. You don't have to do all of the ideas. So that goes back to the curriculum is a guide, and you don't have to do everything that they suggest. And so there are some programs that are complicated and will remain complicated, and you just have to pick and choose. What's most important to do here? And is there extra fluff we can cut out? Or can the complication, let's go back to my idea about just slowing down. If it's complicated, let's just do one part of it today. Let's do another part of it tomorrow. Maybe there's a third part and a fourth part. Maybe it takes you an entire week to get through one of the lessons of history because you just really want to slow down and you want to absorb it and you want to master it and you want to add in more things and watch videos and the kids are just really enjoying it. If it's complicated, just understand it's complicated right now. Say you get directions for how to put something together and you're just overwhelmed, like this is so complicated. But as you start it, you just pay attention to step 1, pay attention to step 2, pay attention to step 3. And before you know it, you're like, oh, this is not complicated at all. So you have to give it time. I hope that these tips and some of these hacks and things have encouraged you not to give up on the curriculum that you have. It can still work for you. You just need to work for it a little bit. If you are struggling with your homeschool or you're just wanting, maybe you're not fully struggling, but you're like, I'm not quite sure what direction we're going in. I want to encourage you to go check out your homeschool blueprint. Together in that, I'm going to guide you how to create a vision and how to be intentional about your homeschooling. If you don't know where you're going, you're just going to end up who knows where. And the goal is for our children to learn mastery, for them to love learning, for them to know how to learn, and most of all, how to love God and to live out their faith in the world. And that can be a part of your vision that you create. And picking out the curriculum is a part of your homeschool blueprint. I guide you through so that hopefully you don't find yourself some homeschool year with a bunch of curriculum that you just really don't like. And if you do, use these tips. But you can get more information at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/blueprint. I cannot wait to join you in your homeschool journey over there. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If it was just what you needed to hear, would you do me a favor and share it with a friend? And if you would like to connect more, social media links and more are in the show notes just for you. I promise to see you back here real soon.